Our presenters today are from the Propel team at Tourism HR Canada. So we have Joe Baker and Lawazi Sibanda. So thank you both for being here. Joe and Lawazi, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Eli, for that introduction. So would like to thank you very much for coming to the Propel Student Work Placement Program information session hosted by Baxter Media. To get started, we'll just take a quick look at the agenda. Now, we're going to introduce you to Propel through a short video, and then afterwards, we're going to talk about what is work integrated learning. Now, just a side note, there are a lot of terms that we're going to use in this information session, and there are some resources that will be provided in the chat, as mentioned before, and also in the email after this information session. So, again, what is work integrated learning, or more commonly known as WIL, how you can participate either as a student, either as an employer, or either as a post-secondary institution. We'll then be delving into the navigating the Outcome Campus Connect portal, and then looking at the eligibility criteria. Afterwards, we'll end off by a short Q&A. And to get started, let's take a look at the video.
The Propel Student Work Placement Program is a new initiative to help the tourism and hospitality sector recover from the devastating impacts of the pandemic. It is powered by Tourism HR Canada and funded by the Government of Canada. Propel creates a direct link between post-secondary students who are looking to enhance their workplace skills through work-integrated learning opportunities and employers who can provide valuable experience while also showcasing a multitude of career pathways in the industry. Students will get paid hands-on learning and mentoring with special consideration for underrepresented groups, and they will have opportunities to develop the work-ready skills required to secure meaningful employment in the tourism and hospitality sector upon graduation. Employers will acquire much-needed early talent interested in working in the industry and will be provided with a wage subsidy of up to $5,000 for each student hired through the program. Post-secondary institutions will be the bridge, complementing existing work-integrated learning programming and connecting students with hundreds of workplace opportunities across Canada. Propel is open to domestic students enrolled at recognized post-secondary institutions and registered Canadian businesses, startups, and not-for-profits related to the tourism and hospitality sector. There has never been a better time to explore work-integrated learning, and there has never been a greater need for new talent. Apply now for fall, winter, and summer semesters. Visit propelcareers.ca to get started today.
Thank you for that. So right now I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Joe Baker, who is going to introduce work integrated learning, or WIL.
Thank you, Lawazi. Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you today. We so appreciate your time, your focus on learning about Propel, learning about work integrated learning, and investing in providing incredible opportunities for students as they transition to become leaders of the future of our industry. So we like to start these presentations off with a little bit of level setting. Propel is all about work integrated learning, but you might be asking yourself, what the heck is work integrated learning? Or maybe you have a little bit of an idea of work integrated learning. So we'll start with a definition here. This comes from Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning Canada. They are a partner organization of ours in the delivery of Propel. They are a national nonprofit that works to advance meaningful work integrated learning opportunities for Canadian students across the country. So I won't read the full description. It's here for you, and there's a link in this presentation where you will be provided with some more detail about it. But I think the key parts of work integrated learning that are important for our discussion today are these. Work integrated learning is the extension of the delivery of an academic program from the academic institution into industry. The idea here is that students are gaining learning experiences while in the workplace. And what matters most is that work integrated learning is the embodiment of a true partnership. And that partnership is between post-secondary institutions, employers, and of course, the students themselves. So that's a little bit about work integrated learning. You are going to hear Luwazi and I both reference it a lot through this presentation. And so now you have a source if you want any more information on what work integrated learning is all about. And so technically speaking, CWIL actually has done lots of research in the field and defines 9 different types of work integrated learning. We aren't going to go into all 9 different types of work integrated learning, but we do want to make you aware of the categories that we see most commonly in either students studying tourism-related programs and looking to get into our industry, or students studying other programs from other fields who want to do their work integrated learning experiences with us. So these are 4 fairly common types of work integrated learning. By volume, these are probably the most common types of work integrated learning in the programs that we have. So cooperative education is the biggest for sure, typically longer and paid placements regardless of wage subsidies. There are lots of programs that have field placements in them, lots of programs that have internships in them, and lots of programs that also contain some element of work experience. So you will need to know these terms as we progress through our presentation and as you access our Propel portal, and Luwazi will reference them later on there. And again, there's a link at the bottom of that slide too. And so the Student Work Placement Program, or also known as SWIP, its acronym, is a program that gives post-secondary students across Canada paid work experience related to their field of study. The Student Work Placement Program is a program that has been designed by our federal government in the Employment Social Development Canada branch. And Student Work Placement Program is delivered across the country, and it is designed to be giving these wage subsidies to various different industry sectors. So they're actually delivery partners. We are a delivery partner. They're delivery partners across many different industry sectors. But this program, Propel, which is the branding that we have given to our Student Work Placement Program, is the first program that has been made available to Canada's hospitality and tourism industry employers. So this is a very important milestone for us. The first time we've received federal funding that allows us to give wage subsidies out to employers who are hiring students to do work integrated learning experiences within the hospitality and tourism industry. This is a really important opportunity for us collectively as an industry to use up these wage subsidies as much as possible and demonstrate to our federal government that the tourism industry is serious about work integrated learning and early talent strategies, and we want sustained continued funding opportunities so that we can continue to pay students for meaningful work integrated learning experiences. So that's us, Propel. There are 3 key partners, and you sort of heard me reference it when we were talking about the definition of work integrated learning. The first key partner, of course, is our post-secondary institutions. Post-secondary institutions are the designers and keepers of programs and standards and preparing students for their careers. If you are here today from a post-secondary institution, or what we normally ask our post-secondary institution partners to do is to share Propel information. We're going to get into the details of what this means, but essentially, if you, as an academic institution, direct students to the Propel portal, then they have the opportunity to apply for work integrated learning experiences that are funded and paid. And this is a very important marker for the tourism industry that historically has had challenges to have enough budget to pay students for work integrated learning. So this is a really, really important moment. And we also ask them to direct their partner networks and their employers. We recognize the post-secondary institutions across this country have worked very hard to develop networks of local employers and partners. We also ask that they distribute Propel information to them, because essentially if the academic institutions tell their employer partners about Propel, those employer partners get a wage subsidy of up to $5,000 or 50% of the wages paid during those placements. So that's the role of the post-secondary institution as it relates to Propel. And of course, students, if we have students with us today, or if you know of students or you're working with students, we need students to go into our portal, and Lowazi is going to show you what that means and what that looks like. And we need them to apply for work integrated learning opportunities. The portal that you will see today is very much like a job board. It is built based on a system called Outcome, Campus Connect, and Magnet. And essentially, it is a digital platform that connects employers with employment opportunities. And in this case, that platform is being used to connect students with work integrated learning opportunities. The whole thing here is one giant simulation of the job search and recruitment and retention process. So that's what we want the students to do. Go into the system and apply for a work integrated learning opportunity. We want them also to provide proof of enrollment and a will component of the program. After Lowazi guides you through the portal, I will walk you through the eligibility criteria as laid out by ESDC. And one of them is that the students need to be enrolled in a recognized Canadian post-secondary institution with a component of work integrated learning. So we need them to provide that proof. We've got templates on our website where they could get a letter from their program coordinator or chair or professor or anything, but sometimes people submit proof through their transcripts or something from the registrar's office. So that is up to the students. And then, of course, we need our students to complete those placements. Think about work integrated learning just like a course. You have to complete a certain number of courses to gain your credential. We want students to get all the way through the work integrated learning experience. Sometimes students can feel like it starts to look and feel a lot like a job, and sometimes you can just leave a job. Well, for the component of work integrated learning as part of the program, and for the investment that the employer and the federal government are making in those wages, we want them to stick with that placement, which also gives us as the tourism industry and employers the opportunity to impress upon the students how incredible careers in the tourism sector are, even before they become graduates. And our employer partners, we are thrilled to be speaking to so many of you today. Again, just as described from the student perspective, Lowazi is going to walk you through. And when we are asking you to post a work integrated learning opportunity, the language that's in the system is post a job. So think about posting a work integrated learning through the same context as you would when you're posting a job. What do you have to do to post a job? The more you describe the job, the more detail you put in your job application. And in fact, the more compelling you are in your posting, the more opportunities there are to attract those students to apply. This system is in hundreds of academic institutions across the country. So you immediately gain access to thousands of students actively looking for work integrated learning opportunities. You know this already from your lived experience as an employer. Talent these days is competitive. Well, the reality is so is securing students to do work integrated learning. So the more compelling and the more detail you put in your postings, the bigger chance that you get a good group of applicants. You can also apply for your wage subsidies in our system. Lowazi will walk you through that. It's a really key component of this. So you can post opportunities, you can apply for a wage subsidy. You could do both at the same time. You could do one before the other. It's up to you. You can do those things. And then we need you to hire a student. Think about what we do as connecting you with funding and connecting you with students. The rest is up to you. You're hiring these students just as if you're taking them through a job hiring process. So the choice is up to you. Several will apply. For most positions, opportunity is for you to review those applications, conduct those interviews, and make some really great offers to some great students who are looking to get a kickstart their careers. And so this brings us back to the Propel portal. Just before Lowazi comes in, you'll see we've got a link there too. That brings you right into our portal. He is going to walk you through. These are screenshots. These are step-by-step as it relates to how to create a profile, how to post an opportunity, how to apply for a wage subsidy. And just know as you're going through this, our website, which is propelcareers.ca, is full of additional tools, resources, guides. So if something's going through here and you feel like you lost a step, don't worry. We've got PDF documents. We have video tutorials. We have updated information on that website. This is just an introduction so that you get a sense of what it's like to navigate the Propel portal. And with that, I will welcome my colleague Lowazi back, and he'll guide you through a step-by-step of overview of this portal.
Thank you, Joe. Now, as Joe did mention a lot of information, and he did also mention that the link to the landing page for the portal is at the bottom of the screen. That will also be shared in the chat. Now, the most important thing to note is on this particular platform, the student will be able to create their profile, upload their resume, and apply for will opportunities. And the employer will be able to create their profile and also post will opportunities. So the main three things we're going to focus on right now is posting a will opportunity, applying for a wage subsidy, and hiring a student, and the criteria involved around it. So a special note, when posting a will opportunity, if as an employer you haven't had the chance to do it, this would help. As an employer, if you've already gone on other job boards, you could work with this one in tandem. If as an employer, you've already hired a student, you can just skip this step and just go to the next step. But to start off with, let's find out how we can post a will opportunity. The first thing it's going to ask you is what type of opportunity you're applying for. Joe did mention the 4 types of will opportunity, and that there's a resource by CWIL which actually names 9. Right now, to start this application off, we recommend that you select cooperative education, as it has the largest talent pool. So once you click that, you would then click next. It will then ask you what your field of study. Now, for example, if you're looking for a marketing student, you would then select marketing. If you want to be less specific, you could just click commerce and all the options for commerce would appear. So if you're looking for specializing, you can specialize. But if you're looking for general, you can expand that criteria, because there are students who may not be in that particular subject that are looking for experience in that subject. Next, you'll be asked to select the region. Now, you can be specific and select the region that you're in, but keep in mind there are students from other regions in Canada that are looking for experience in different parts of the country. So if you open it up to them, you'll be actually surprised to find how much volume of students will actually be looking for that opportunity. You will then be asked to mention something about the placement. For example, when does it start? When does it end? What is the rate of pay? These are all important information. This is a very important information that is required when completing this. You will also be asked to kind of briefly put something about yourselves. What is your organization? We also urge you to put a link so that students can look for more information on your organization. In order to qualify for the wage subsidy, you will have to click Tourism HR. Once you've clicked that, it will bring you to a summary page. And once you're satisfied with all the information that you've entered on the summary page, you would then click Submit, and you would have successfully posted a will opportunity. Now, let's get on to how to apply for a wage subsidy. So to start off, you'd go into the Propel portal, you would submit a wage subsidy application. Once we receive it, we review it, we will all then provide you with an agreement contract. So this will be supplied to you. At the same time, we'll also provide you with a supporting documents guide or a link to the guide, which will be provided for you. This has the summary of the documents and a checklist. And then there are also templates that you can use to make sure that you've actually got all the documents you require. At the end of the placement, you would then submit those documents to us. We would review them, and then we'll provide you the wage subsidy. So what does that application look like in the system? To start off with, you'll be asked to select a term. Currently, we do have summer open. So in this particular case, you would click summer. Click next, and then you'll be asked to select the type of placement. The type of placement that you're looking for. Again, we highly recommend that you select cooperative education. Once you click that, then ask you to tell us a bit about your company. Once you've done that, you would then be asked if you've hired a student. Now, as an employer, if you've hired a student, you would then click the toggle circled in red. At that point, you'll be asked to fill out the student's information. Please complete all that information as is required. It includes the year of birth, what kind of courses that student is currently doing, and the student's email. As an employer, if you haven't hired a student, you can still come back at a later date and upload the information from the student once you've hired the student. You would just click next, and then you'll be asked to submit documents. As this is the first time that you're navigating through the website, you won't have any documents to hand in or to submit. So you could just click next. Once you click next, it'll bring you up to a summary page. On the summary page, once you're satisfied with all the information that you've entered, you would then click submit. And at that point, you would have then successfully completed submitting a wage subsidy application. So right now, we're going to turn and look as to what is the criteria, because there is criteria that is mandated by ESDC that my colleague Joe will then look into talk to you about. So over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Luwazi. So as you heard at the beginning of this presentation, the Student Work Placement Program is a program designed by ESTC. And as such, all of the delivery partners across the country and across the various sectors of industry have the same eligibility criteria, which means we need to communicate these to you, and then we need to adjudicate the applications that come in against these criteria. Unfortunately, what it means is we don't have influence over the criteria, that it is our responsibility to use the criteria to manage the program. So there are eligibility criteria for students and there are eligibility criteria for employers. From a student perspective at the moment, students who are eligible for this program are domestic students only, and they define that as Canadian permanent residents and citizens. What it means is right now, international students are not eligible for this funding. We have provided some feedback in hopes that international students are included in future iterations of the program, but for right now, it's a domestic student eligibility only. Those students need to be registered at a recognized Canadian post-secondary institution in a program that includes a work placement. A recognized Canadian post-secondary institution is something that is also determined by the government, usually at a provincial level, as that's how higher education is sort of oversight in this country, province by province. So there are lists on ESDC websites. What it typically means is publicly funded colleges are eligible, publicly funded universities are eligible, private universities are typically eligible, but at this stage, private career colleges are usually not eligible for funding. In Quebec, there are the Cégep system at the diploma level and above, they're also eligible. So that is an important determination to make sure that those students are registered at a Canadian post-secondary institution. And that registration means they need to be actively in their program. So these wage subsidies are not available for recent graduates, or these wage subsidies are not even available for students while they're on, let's say, their summer break, unless their program has assigned some work integrated learning that needs to be done during the breaks. The program has to have some component of work integrated learning. That's why we're giving you an overview of a few of them. So if they don't have any component of work integrated learning in them, at the very least, we need something, a letter that we have a template for right on our website from the post-secondary institution that says, yes, this student needs to do this work integrated learning as part of the program. So that's the student eligibility piece. From an employer perspective, employers need to be registered Canadian businesses, startups, or nonprofits related to the tourism and hospitality sector, and or related to a tourism and hospitality job function. So this is an important distinction. If you are an employer in the hospitality and tourism sector, then you are eligible to receive wage subsidies. If you are an employer and you don't identify as part of the hospitality and tourism sector, but the job that you are hiring a work integrated learning student for is related to the sector. So maybe you're hiring somebody to run the catering office in your law firm, or maybe you're hiring somebody to run the event department in your financial institution. Because those jobs are related to our sector, then you are also eligible for funding. And while we're encouraging you to consider students who are enrolled in hospitality and tourism related programs, keep in mind that if you are a hospitality and tourism industry employer, you can hire students from any field of study. You could hire business students or accounting students or marketing students or HR students. You could hire students in engineering. You could hire students in graphic design. You could hire students in animation. Anything that you need for your business, and any work integrated learning opportunity that you can provide that's meaningful and adds value to the student learning, you can apply for. So keep that in mind as you go through our system. You're not necessarily looking for tourism and hospitality students. You're just looking for students who are interested in pursuing their work integrated learning experiences in the tourism and hospitality industry. Those placements can be on-site, remote, and hybrid. They cannot be funded by other federal grants or programs. You as an organization can be receiving multiple sources of federal grants, but you can't use those grants to stack up against each other. This is a wage subsidy program. Wage subsidy goes up to $5,000 or 50% of wages over the time that they're with you. Or if the students self-identify as an equity deserving group, that goes up to $7,000 or a maximum of 70%. But the other wages need to be paid by you. You can't use another form of federal grant to pay the other 50 or 30%. And the student must be hired as an employee of the company, not as an independent contractor. And again, so knowing that we just hit you with a lot of detail, Lowazi and I are just trying to give you a really good overview of what we do. We will get to the other side of this and have a Q&A, but before we move forward, we wanted to play you a short video, because while what we just went through is a lot of technical information, what matters most to us is that Propel has a very positive impact on our employers, because they can access wage subsidies and they can hire students into their businesses. And it has a positive impact on the student experience. They can transition from a learning in an academic environment to learning on the job. This is how we make first impressions on the students so that they continue to pursue careers in our sector once they get to graduation. So what we wanted to do is share a short video with you. This is one of our employer partners, just reflecting on the impact Propel and the students have had. And on the other side of that, we will happy to join you for a Q&A. So watch one little video and we'll be right back.
My name is Kelly Callender. I'm the head chef at Melange Restaurant in Nanaimo, BC. I definitely view these placements as a part of our regular recruitment strategy. It's nice to get a chance to really feel out who a student is, who a person is in a work experience program like this. Because we get so much time working with them, you can really see how they develop and get a better ability to assess their potential. One of the most important benefits is just reducing the financial burden on restaurants for training employees. It's an industry with really tight margins, so instead of having to focus all the time on the bottom line, you can focus a lot more on specific training and developing these young talents in the culinary industry. Most of the students come in with a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to try new things. And at Melange Restaurant, we really try to offer the opportunity to play and be creative. So it's kind of just like a trading of ideas and exploring of creative avenues in the culinary industry. Personally, I find it reminds me of that time in my life and helps me get inspired about cooking again. Reach out to the team at Propel and ask them a lot of questions. I found they were incredibly friendly, incredibly informative, and very, very helpful throughout the whole process.
All right, and here we are at the Q&A portion of this presentation. I think what we will do is we will have our colleagues from Baxter see if there are any questions, maybe call them out, and Luwazi and I can do our very best to answer those questions. How's that?
That sounds good. We currently don't have any questions yet, but let's see. Hi, Christine from Vancouver. Thanks for joining. We did have a question earlier that disappeared. I don't know where it went, but it said, what if you're a travel agency? You did address that previously, Joe, but if you want to just touch on that again, because I know we are live streaming out right now to YouTube and LinkedIn, so there may be people just popping in at different points. So feel free to address that again.
Totally. So yes, if you are a travel agency, then you are eligible for these wage subsidies because of the nature of your business being in the tourism industry, I think, or the tourism sector. So maybe just to clarify, in Canada, we use the term tourism and hospitality sometimes to define a very broad industry. And that industry represents 5 subsectors, one being food services, food and beverage, one being accommodation, one being travel services, one being transportation, and the other being recreation and entertainment. And so under that umbrella is what is defined as the tourism industry. If your business falls into any of those categories, you are eligible for wage subsidies. Just have to make sure that the students who you are interviewing and selecting also meet their own eligibility criteria.
Okay, and we have a question here. Are we able to know if we are approved before we hire a student? I don't want to hire without knowing we're approved.
Yes. So jump in the system. You can apply for a wage subsidy. Luwazi and the team behind the scenes goes through and adjudicates that application, makes sure you're eligible, lets you know that you're approved, and then you can post that job. Luwazi, how long does that process typically take?
The process typically takes at least 5 to 7 days. We allow 5 to 7 days, but you could get an answer sooner than that.
There you go. And on the screen there, you'll see if you don't have questions now, or if you don't get the answer to your question, or if what you're looking for is more complex, you can always email us at propel@tourismhr.ca, or you can go to that propelcareers.ca, and that's where the most updated information is.
Okay, so how about this? Can you post more than one opportunity at a time?
Luwazi, what do you think?
Correct. You can post as many opportunities as your business requires. If you're looking to hire, let's say, more than 5, please send us an email so that we can probably find a better way of kind of managing that in terms of the application process to make it easier for you. So please reach out to us at the email at propel@tourismhr.ca. And if you have any questions regarding that, or if you have, let's say, you want to hire students in future terms, please reach out.
And we have a question here. Is the program only geared to a specific age group or to any students new to the industry? And what's the youngest that they can hire?
So to kind of put it, it's for post-secondary students. So I'm not too sure what the age of post-secondary student is currently. However, it does qualify for post-secondary students, which means you could be doing a bachelor, a master's. So there's no limit on the age. It's just that post-secondary education has to be there because it's a mandate that is given to us by ESDC, and therefore we have to make sure that we follow it.
Okay, great. And from Spring Carter, we have a question. Do you have an Indigenous student stream from which to review applicants, or is knowing that strictly on a self-identifying basis?
Yeah, it is a self-identifying basis. When students go into the system and they create a profile, they have the opportunity to self-select any of the equity deserving groups, of which Indigenous is one. Indigenous students certainly are eligible for that, up to 70% of those wages. Those are priorities by ESDC. But we don't specifically recruit students to go and access Propel, we specifically recruit post-secondary institutions and employer partners. So we are asking academic institutions and employer partners to participate in Propel. We very rarely have direct influence over the students because obviously they are entering their programs independent of our role in it.
Okay, and we have a question from Chad here. It says, what if you have already hired a student? Can we go back?
Ooh, Loazi, what do you think?
If you've already hired a student, you can, right now we have our summer 2024 applications open. So if you've already hired a student, please take advantage of this and apply for the wage subsidy. Anything before April 1st, we won't be able to take as the start of our fiscal years. We are following the government fiscal year, which starts on April 1st and ends on March 31st. So if you've hired after April 1st, please apply.
Okay. From Erica, we have, would posting multiple include multiple students for one role or students for multiple roles?
Well, you could post multiple postings to pursue multiple students. You could post a single posting to pursue multiple students. However you want to do it. You can post whatever you want and you can be approved for as many wage subsidies as you can. The only limit that we have is running out of funding. So, it's early in the year. We are funded on a fiscal year basis. So we received our funding in April. So we've got lots of money and our job is to give it away to you.
All right, and from Sean, to be clear, we pay the student for the time frame applied for, then we submit payroll stubs, etc., for the subsidy.
Loazi, that's right?
That's correct. So whenever the placement starts, so let's say your placement starts on May 1st and ends on August 31st, you would be paid for that, provided that the letter from the school substantiates that particular term that student is working. Each post-secondary institution has different timeframes when they have co-ops. So as long as the period of time when the student starts to the time the student ends is within that time frame, you will be the wage subsidy will be paid accordingly.
And what is the expected commitment of a student in a place, or how long, is the expected commitment of a student in a placement?
So we have a few different parameters. Often I get it wrong and Loazi corrects me, so feel free to do so here. We like student placements to be at a minimum of 4 weeks and at a minimum of 20 hours a week, which genuinely gives them enough time on the job to be learning, and they can go as long as you wish them to go and as long as they are scheduled in the academic programs. Did that get that right, Loazi?
That is correct, Joe.
All right.
Nice. We have our associations included in this program.
Yeah, we totally have associations and we want associations to take advantage of it. Good example, we recently did one of these information sessions with the Hotel Association of Canada, and one of the people participating was the BC Hotel Association, British Columbia Hotel Association, and they have since applied for wage subsidies and hired students within their association. So we've seen a lot of that. We encourage a lot of that, and it's a great way to also model to your members. And also another pitch, if you're an association and you want Loazi and I to send you more information so that we can specifically target your members, we're happy to do that as well.
All right. And then it looks like the final question for now is, are there additional funds for Indigenous students or Indigenous tourism initiatives?
So the additional funds for Indigenous students is the difference between 50% wage subsidy to 70% wage subsidy, because the student self-identifies as one of the equity deserving groups. So yes, there is additional funding for any of the identified equity deserving groups. But in this case, we don't have supplemental funding on top of Propel for those Indigenous tourism experiences. But if you can get 70% of those wages covered, I think that's a pretty great start. And depending on your provincial region, there are other provincial organizations that are providing wage subsidies for work integrated learning. And if you put provincial wage subsidies together with federal wage subsidies, you don't get your lines crossed. So specifically, we were just out in Alberta, and I know the Alberta Hospitality Association is giving $5,000 grants to businesses to hire students on work integrated learning. So think about that. You could stack their grant with our wage subsidy, and you're in good shape if you're in Alberta. So hope that helps.
All right, we've actually had one more. What would happen if the student decided to quit school throughout this process?
So if they quit school throughout the process, then they have to quit their work integrated learning experience, but you would still be reimbursed for the time, 50% of the time while they were in that program.
All right, that seems it for now, but we will be sharing the team's email. So if you do have questions, I know you can connect with them afterwards. And there's a little more presentation, right? You have some more slides?
Other than a big thank you for your time, for being here, asking a bunch of questions, and Lawazi and I, bidding you adieu, we don't have any other content at this point.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, there is that handout document that everyone in the webinar room can download. So it has some helpful links in there. It has the team's email. We will be sharing the recording from today with you all probably tomorrow. And it will also include all that information. So you should have it right at your fingertips. But thank you all for being here. We can hang around for a few minutes in case you have some more questions filtering in. But other than that, I would also like to mention that you can follow Baxter Media on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we will be posting about upcoming webinars as they come up. Our next one's actually on June 27th with Delta Airlines and Agencia Global. So it'll be about route updates, news, and learning how travel agents can raise their commission with Agencia Global Bookings platform. We have some thank yous here from Chad and Susan. Thank you for joining, everyone. And
before Lawazi says goodbye, just also wanted to say Baxter Media is a great source of information for people working in the industry. Lots of great resources. So is Tourism HR Canada. For any of your people, HR, talent, inclusion, labor market information kind of needs, check out Tourism HR Canada's website. And we have a bi-weekly newsletter that always hits the top of my inbox. It's called the Tourism HR Insider. So if you are curious about all of this, want to get more information about the resources and programs Tourism HR Canada is putting together, please do subscribe to our Tourism HR Insider newsletter that comes out bi-weekly.